Hello viewers, welcome to a lecture series on Indian ethos in management, and now we are going to start our discussion on the topic of Indian systems of learning. When we talk about the teaching learning methodologies, nowadays it has become a buzzword. What is Indian systems of learning? With the emergence of national education policy, which was earlier known as new education policy, because it is no more new. Once it is implemented, it has become national education policy. So with that policy, there was lot of hue and cry on the question of the Indian systems of learning, whether it is included into that or not, and in what way that has been included. That is something which is a point of concern for all of us. So I just thought it to be very pertinent to have a discussion on the topic of Indian systems of learning. So we need to first understand what is Indian learning system all about. What is the meaning and definition of how do we define Indian learning system? Learning system, we all understand that we all have to learn, unlearn and relearn. But what is this Indian learning system all about? That is something which we need to discuss. Then what is the historical context of that? What are the key features and innovations of the Indian learning system, and eventually moving on to Gurukul system, its values and principles, its teaching methodologies. And nowadays in the syllabus of Indian ethos in management, we have a topic of comparison between the Gurukul system with that of modern system of education, whether that was good or this is better, whether that was progressive or this is progressive, which one is regressive. This debate is going on among the people at large, and even in the classrooms also at times we have this we witness heated arguments among the youngsters talking about taking the favor of modern education system and undermining the significance of Gurukul system. So I would be telling you what is the way out, how to go ahead, whether we should completely eliminate modern system of education, or we should go ahead with the modern education system by incorporating the key components of Gurukul system, that is Indian learning system, into our teaching methodology. So that is something which is my agenda of discussion in today's lecture. So moving on to Indian learning system. What is Indian learning system? Indian learning system, with its blend of traditional wisdom and modern advancement, is evolving to meet the demands of 21st century. The Indian learning system basically, in a way we can say, it is evolving to meet the very demand of 21st century. People think that Indian learning system is no more required in 21st century, but I am saying here that it is evolving to evolving again to meet the demands of 21st century. Whatever you need from the education system in this 21st century, the Indian learning system has so many things to offer. So addressing this its challenge while leveraging its strengths, it would be a key to shaping the future of education in India. And now we have at least started implementing, we have started realizing that this is the problem which we are witnessing in the present education system. And once we understand the problem, we always find a solution. The problem of us is, the problem is there that we don't know what the problem is. The moment we realize that this is the problem, we can find the root cause of that problem and we can address that problem, we can find a solution to that. So there is no problem which has no solution. Every problem has a solution. So it is us who have to find out, who have to introspect for finding the best solution for the education system. So if we look at the Indian learning system, it is a rich tapestry woven from ancient traditions and modern advancements. We have two things: ancient traditions and modern advancements. When we combine them together, we can find a blend of Indian learning system, and we should understand its evolution, what is its structure, what are the challenges and innovations. If we understand all this, then only we can make a decision regarding the Indian learning system. We can understand what it is all about. Simply saying that Indian learning system means Gurukul system and rejecting it on this ground that now it is no more relevant will not be a justice to the entire Indian learning system. So we need to first understand the Indian learning system in totality. What is its evolution, structure, challenges, and the way we have reached to the level of modern education system. What learning system we are witnessing today? It has actually travelled from the traditional Gurukul system, and now we are finding what we are finding. It has not come overnight. It has evolved it is evolving in nature, and with the passage of time we kept on changing, making changes into our education system. We tried to find the best for whatever is best suited for the industry. Accordingly we implemented the education system. But we need to take a pause and think, do we need education only for industry, only for employment, or there is something which is beyond that? Answer is, it is beyond that. Then why we are running with an education system which is only having compliance of the industry standards? Why are we expecting a education system which can create lot of workers? Why don't we expect our education system to be of that kind, where we find leaders, where we find job creators, where we find good citizens, where we find the ideal citizens? So that is something which actually forces us to introspect and discuss about the learning systems and eventually the Indian learning system. I would briefly give you the historical context of this Indian learning system. If we look at the ancient Gurukul system, in Gurukuls it was basically they use this term only, Gurukuls, and they were actually residential schools where students to which we called as pupils or shishya, they lived with their teachers to gain knowledge. So it was a kind of residential school. You can nowadays, if you ask me, in present day world, I would say Gurukuls are basically a kind of residential schools where the teachers and students, they used to live together. And if you talk about the curriculum, it is very interesting to note here. Their curriculum not only included the classroom teachings, it included Vedas, it included mathematics, it included astronomy, it included philosophy, and it included martial arts also. So along with the bookish knowledge, we used to provide in Gurukuls, the curriculum included the martial arts also, to which we call nowadays as self-defense. So in one way or the other, you would agree with me that we are finding presence of Gurukul system in one way or the other in present days schools also. An ideal school which actually ensures the holistic development of a student includes all those aspects which are needed. Now we have schools where you have Vedic mathematics as a subject, where you have astronomy as a subject, where you have philosophy as a subject, where you have martial art as a co-curricular activity. So we need to understand that even in historical context, the ancient Gurukul system, its key components, they have traveled, the name have changed, but in one way or the other, you will find their presence into your education system. If we talk about teaching methods in Gurukul system, there was huge emphasis on oral traditions, verbal teaching, one-to-one communication. It was basically based on memorization, that whatever we are teaching, learners used to memorize that, and then eventually the experiential learning. So we used to call it Shruti, Smriti and Nididhyasan, that is oral teachings, then memorization and experiential learning. So teaching methods, they included the experiential learning, which nowadays somehow in the present education system it was lacking. And that became the entry point for the national education policy to include the experiential learning into their course curriculum. Then moving on to medieval period, from ancient to medieval period, what happened? We started witnessing the presence of madrasas and pathshalas, Center for Islamic and Hindu Education respectively. At some places, based on their religion, they were actually moving to those pathshalas or what you call as madrasas. And then we got universities, institutions like Nalanda and Takshila. They were renowned for their learning methodology, attracting students from across the world, not only from India but across all over Asia. At least I can say they were able to attract students. And then coming to modern education system. In modern education system, if you look at the structure, you would find pre-primary education, nursery and kindergarten, which you call as KG, then primary education, middle education, secondary education, and it culminates into board exams. Most of the parents, they are actually finding, they are very much sensitive towards this board exam. At times we feel that parents are more concerned than the students when it comes to their board exams, and their marks are basically a testimony to the parents' status nowadays, and that is somehow, that is another point of discussion which we can hold later on in some other topic when we will talk about the stress management and all. Then moving on to higher secondary educations with a focus on streams like science, commerce and arts, and eventually tertiary education, universities and colleges which are offering graduates, undergraduate, postgraduate and doctoral programs. So, this is the modern education system, starting from preschool to higher education to the doctoral programs and postdoctoral programs as well. But what I am willing to put on record here is the key features and innovations. What are the key features of the Gurukul system? What are the key features and innovations which we are witnessing nowadays? Starting from technological integration. Nowadays, we are finding that in modern education system, we have digital classrooms. We are using smart boards, tablets and online resources. Our students are finding each and every resource on a click only. So, they are finding everything available instantly. They are using online learning platforms which offers e-learning opportunities to them, both at government level and as well as at private level. If we talk about government initiatives, the lecture which you are witnessing right now, it is another initiative. The Consortium for Educational Communication, it is actually imparting knowledge through this digital platform where you are finding live lectures and later on they are being uploaded on the YouTube and you can find it. You can go through those lectures as per your convenience. Programs like Swayam and Diksha, they are for online learning and teachers training program. So, this technological integration is very much there in the modern education system, which at times people say that which was missing in the Gurukul system, which was not there. Actually, it was not needed at that point of time. We would have a discussion on that when we will compare the modern education system with that of traditional one. Moving on to curriculum reforms. So, we found National Education Policy 2020 which focuses on holistic, flexible, multidisciplinary, inclusive education, and it actually fosters critical thinking and creativity among the learners. This is the gist of this National Education Policy which we are calling as the latest policy of education in India, which was implemented in the year 2020. If we talk about vocational training, there is huge emphasis on skill development and vocational education from middle school onwards, and at the we believe that we should catch them young. From the very schooling time only, they should be exposed to that vocational education. If we look at assessment changes, the kind of change we have witnessed in terms of assessment, now it is no more a 3 hours memory test. We are talking about CCE, continuous comprehensive evaluation, which is introduced to assess students' overall development. There might be a possibility that a student on the day of exam may not be able to perform well. So, suppose you decide a date on which you are evaluating the student at the end of the semester or at the end of the year, there might be a possibility that student may not be able to perform well. So, rather than taking 1 day exam or 3 hours exam or 2 hours exam, we should believe into continuous and comprehensive evaluation. And that is more justifiable, that is more justified when we really wish to evaluate the performance of students, of the learners. So, board exams now their focus is also shifting from rote learning to understanding and application of knowledge. Now, we have started asking questions. If you look at the triangle of Bloom's taxonomy, we are at least we have left the place of asking questions on why, how and define. We have started thinking beyond that. We talk about the application of knowledge now. If you look at the question papers, the change is being witnessed in the assessment parameters or in the examination system. If you look at the challenge in this modern education system, what challenge we are witnessing? First one is access and equity. The rural urban divide is very much significant. There is significant disparity in the quality of education if you talk about the rural areas and the urban areas. So, the rural urban divide is very much present still date even in the modern education system. The biggest challenge is how to actually transfer this knowledge in the same manner to the rural areas. So, there should be a uniform access and equitable access of each and every student, each and every learner. So we have to eliminate the significant disparities in the quality of education which we still witness in the rural areas. If we talk about gender disparities, though it is improving, there is still much more to be done in case of female educations, that how to attract, how to invite, how to offer easy access and equitable access of education to the female child, to the girl child. If we talk about economic barriers, another challenge, cost of education, it can be prohibitive, it becomes a deterrent for us, for specifically for underprivileged families. So imagine even at the school level, if you compare the fee charged by a government school and then the so called public school, which is no more for public, with no discrimination to any of the schools, with no any concern or negativity for any school. I would only like to mention here that the cost of education, it actually becomes a deterrent nowadays for underprivileged families. They are not able to afford that cost which they have to pay. So cost of education is a concern, although there are sufficient schools, sufficient number of schools where the education is being imparted to the students. But still, if somehow they talk about the rural urban divide, they talk about accessibility and equitable education or the quality of education, there are some challenges which are still to be eliminated, which are still to be removed. Now coming to the Gurukul system. The Gurukul system is an ancient Indian education system where I told you that students, they were under a residential program, they used to live with their teachers to gain knowledge. And if we look at the historical significance of this Gurukul system, it was integral to the Vedic tradition. If we look at the structure and organization of those Gurukul systems, it was of residential nature, and they used to work like a close-knit community. The Guru and Shishya, the teacher and taught, they were living in a home together and creating a close-knit community. They used to have a feel of a close-knit community, and it used to be self-sufficient. There was no funding at all. Students contributed to the daily affairs and the upkeep of the ashram, even what you call as school. So they used to take care of everything. And if we talk about the role of the Guru, the teacher, the Guru was not just a teacher coming to the class and delivering the lectures and job is done. The Guru used to be a mentor also. They also used to be a spiritual and moral guide to the students. They used to teach them even by their presence without speaking anything. The way you actually address a specific challenge of life, that was also being taught by the Guru in the Gurukul system. So there used to be a personalized attention, customized attention, I would say, because the reason was very simple. Due to the small number of students, the Guru could provide individual attention to each one of them. Each one of them, they were duly mentored, properly mentored by the Guru. That was the benefit of that teacher and taught the Gurukul system. And there is this concern have been addressed in the national education policy, the size of class, the span of control of a teacher, that and what should be the teacher taught ratio for a group of 20 students, how many teachers we need. So what should be the ideal teacher taught ratio? Now we have although initially also there was a proper system of ensuring the teacher taught ratio, but now we have started giving significance to this very concern, that what is the benefit of having the personalized attention. When a student is able to get the customized attention, the one-to-one attention, of course their performance is supposed to improve. If you look at values and principles, there is a very significant value called holistic development. So this entire Gurukul education system was focusing on intellectual, physical, emotional and spiritual growth. It was not only confined to intellectual growth, but also it actually expanded to physical, emotional and spiritual growth. If we talk about discipline and conduct, it used to be very disciplined, more disciplined, strict adherence to discipline, humility and respect towards the Guru and fellow students. They were supposed to follow the guidelines, they were supposed to respect not only the Guru but also the fellow learners. Simple living and high thinking used to be the guiding principle for them, for the learners. Their needs were very, very limited. They used to emphasize living a life of simplicity and high moral standards. So when the needs were limited, the cost of course is supposed to be less. So that was a value which used to be disseminated by the way of Gurukul system. If you look at teaching pedagogy or methodology of teaching under Gurukul system, they used to have n number of techniques or methodologies. I would just provide you the names, which nowadays you find presence of some of them only. You don't find all those methodologies in practice today. So what is needed here is to incorporate all those techniques of teaching into the teaching methodology kit of each and every school, college and university. Lecture methodology, which we all know, it is still in practice. Then they used to have inquiry methodology, which is where the student is supposed to ask questions. Not only students, even teachers used to ask questions. So it has to be an interactive classroom. So this inquiry methodology is indicating towards offering space to the learners to ask questions. Nowadays we find teachers stopping students at the very beginning and say that once I complete my lecture, then only you can ask questions. Why don't you invite, why don't you let your learner ask questions in between? Because by the time you complete your lecture, their questions are no more with them. So it's better to take up the questions as and when they arise. So whatever inquiry, whatever questions, whatever doubt, inhibitions they have, that need to be resolved instantly. And that is why the inquiry methodology was very much there. Then we have intellect methodology in the teaching pedagogy of Gurukul system. We have vitalization methodology, we have linear methodology, we have progeny method, we have joyful methodology, where the student should feel joyful while attending the class, while listening to the guru. Then we have study tour methodology, very much applicable in case of the subjects like history and psychology, where the study tour methodology used to be followed. Then we had learning methodology, and eventually experiment methodology for science and technology. We had introspection methodology, which I could not find in any other education system than in this Indian education system, where we introspect what we have done. Whatever we have learned out of our education system, we introspect into that, and eventually we go for refinement. That refinement is the methodology which used to be part of the teaching methodology followed in Gurukul system. So refinement and introspection, these two are the unique unique methodologies which were adopted, which were very much part and parcel of the teaching toolkit of a guru in the Gurukul system. So nowadays, how many of us as a teacher we go for introspection? How many of us go for revising our lectures, making refinement into our teaching methodology, the way we teach? So that is something which we need to think. Simply taking feedback from the learners and then not taking any action on that will not make any sense, will not be meaningful. Unless you actually make refinement into your teaching methodology after taking feedback, that feedback system is going to be a completely a futile exercise. There is no need to continue with that exercise. But the question comes, sir, when it was so rich, why there is a decline, why this Gurukul system declined? Why it could see the decline in its system? The reason is very simple: the impact of foreign invasions. We all know that repeated invasions disrupted our traditional systems and institutions, and I would say the education was the segment which was the worst affected by the foreign invasions. If you talk about British colonial influence, they actually introduced categorically the Western education by their own ways and means, by the British, and by this the British marginalized traditional Gurukuls. They tried to marginalize those traditional Gurukuls, eliminate them from the system, because they knew that unless these Gurukuls will continue, we will not be able to implement our agenda. So establishment of formal schools and universities based on the British model became the order of the day. So I would say that it was a foreign invasion which actually resulted into the decline of the Gurukul system. But the question comes, what is the legacy and modern adaptations? We need to understand the continued influence. Many modern Indian education principles, they are inspired by the Gurukul ethos. Still we find some schools nowadays increasingly in number which are actually following the Gurukul systems. They have Gurukul ethos at the core. and there is huge revival efforts also being made by different institutions of the society. Some contemporary institutions, they attempt to revive this Gurukul model, blending it with modern education. Now Gurukuls, they have they call it e-Gurukuls, where the guru at Gurukul is using modern technologies. They emphasize on value based education, yoga and holistic development in some schools. If we look at the integration with technology, the modern e-Gurukuls, they use digital platforms for imparting knowledge while preserving the traditional spirit. So they are not lagging behind. Now the Gurukuls, they have transformed themselves into the e-Gurukuls, and that is something which is needed. So the Gurukul system of India, with its emphasis on the holistic education, which I told you, with its emphasis on holistic education, discipline and values, it actually laid a strong foundation for ancient Indian society. Although we discussed that it witnessed some decline due to various historical factors, its principles still continue to influence contemporary education in India. Now, if we compare Gurukul system with modern education system, I would say that in terms of learning environment, in Gurukul we used to find personalized, community oriented, and it was immersive. In modern education system, we are finding the learning environment to be institutional. It is standardized and it is more of competitive, it is not immersive. So we need to make our education system more immersive, more cooperative. Why are we making them competitive? They should not fight with each other. There is no war in the classroom. So this is the basic difference which I could find in terms of learning environment. If we look at educational goals, in Gurukul system, the goal was holistic development, ethical and spiritual growth. In modern education system, you find academic success, professional readiness and skill acquisition. If you look at teaching approach, in Gurukul's teaching approach was more individualized attention used to be given. It was, I told you, Shruti, Smriti and Nididhyasan, that is oral and experiential learning. In modern education system, what we are finding, they are actually following standardized curriculum. They are integrating technology, and they have structured lessons. They talk about portions. They are making it a more of a memory test rather than experiential learning. If you look at the role of teacher, this is very significant. And the last one, in Gurukul's mentors and moral guide, gurus used to be a mental and moral guide with a close personal relationship. Guru used to know about each and every problem of a learner. There was nothing like stress management. There is nothing like stress in the mind of a learner. In modern days, you find instructor and teachers as instructor and facilitator. With the professional distance, they do everything with the professionalism. The question comes, which one is the best? I would say that there is a huge integration potential. If we combine the strength of both the systems, it could lead to a more balanced and comprehensive education model. So the future direction of education is we should try to emphasize holistic development, ethical education and leveraging technology for personalized learning. So if we inculcate those good points of Gurukul system into modern education system, of course our education system is going to be more robust and matchless. With this, I am ending today's lecture of mine. I hope you must have enjoyed this very lecture on the Indian education system. Thank you so much.